What's interesting, a couple things we see in this week's Parsha is it starts off, Ki tisa et rosh b'nei Israel, lift up the heads of the sons of Israel. They don't just count them. Literally, they're lifting up their heads. It means there's something symbolic in that. When we're being counted for the service of Yah, we need to lift up our heads. We need to look to the one that we serve. And we see that emphasis in this Parsha as we go through it. So we're going to see that. We're going to see the lift up your head, and that's something for us to keep in mind. We're also going to see, pardon this, but it's true, we're going to see the command of Aaron and his sons, and for the priests to wash their hands when they go into the presence of God, that's a good idea, isn't it? Make sure we're doing that. And also we're going to talk about when we do things proper and in order, God says he's not going to send a plague in our midst. Wash your hands. Okay, anyway, I kid, but that's the times we're in, right? When we're looking here, don't forget, there's some things that we find here that are relevant for our lives, even the little things. Okay, so some of the things we're going to see in this Parsha. We're going to see, again, the importance of connecting. And we've kind of been talking about this for a few weeks now because we need to connect as a people, do we not? And if we're completely isolating ourselves all the time, when are we connected? And what are we connected to? You say, okay, we're connected to Yah, but we got to have times where we're around His people, And so this is why we find the command throughout Scripture to gather. There's times for gathering, But when we gather, we need to make sure we're doing things proper and in order in the way that He's telling us, And we say, even Shabbat, as we find again in this week's Parsha, the emphasis of the importance of Shabbat. But all Israel camped around the mountain. Guess what, guys? They were already together. They were already united together around the mountain. So where were they for Shabbat? Already gathered around. But he said, when you go into the land, it's going to be a different experience. When you leave the mountain, you're going to have a different experience. And so when you are spread throughout the land, don't forsake gathering. That's why he gave us the Shabbat to gather in, to study, to rest in Him. It's not just a matter of I get to sleep in. Rest in Him and to learn about Him and to come in to gather with His people in His Word. And that's why he even talks about the Shalosh Regalim, the 3-foot feast, the times when we're supposed to gather as a nation, not just as a community. Okay, so we've got to, again, one more time, see the emphasis and the importance of gathering in as a people. Okay, so we're going to find that. We see a need to connect and a need to belong. Because here's a few things we're going to see. Our atonement is beyond us, is it not? Our atonement is not just for us, it's beyond us, and it's provided for anyone who will. Okay? Also, we search to connect to Yah, but do we seek to connect with His people? See, that's a tricky thing, isn't it? Because a lot of times we're like, well, God, it's just me and you against the world. That's the completely wrong attitude, isn't it? It's not you and God against the world. It's you and Yah to try to help bring order and redeeming qualities to the world. It's about His kingdom and help to build His kingdom. Okay? Think about this. While Moshe was on the mountain, how'd the people respond? Yeah, out of sight, out of mind, right? It's like, again, the idea is when they were to go away from Mount Sinai, when they go away from the mountain, they're supposed to carry the presence with them. They're supposed to keep the things that they were instructed in, keep these things that they were taught in, and carry it with them wherever they were. But a lot of times we need to have something right in front of us or we forget it. How many of you guys are like that? I mean, be honest, right? It's why, we're very visual people, and the things right in front of us gets our attention. So the things that go on the bottom of the to-do list often don't get done. So if we don't have it right in front of us, we need these reminders to constantly reconnect with Yah. And the Israel, the temptation was to make golden calves. And we need to be careful we don't do that in our life. Because, let's face it, when things aren't going the way we think they're supposed to go, well, let's help God along. Right? Think Abraham and Ishmael. When it was like, okay, when things aren't working the way that we think they should or how they're supposed to, yeah, Moses was taking his time up there. What's going on? We don't know what happened to this guy Moses. This is what it said. We don't know what happened to Moses. We don't know if he's alive. We don't know if he's dead. We don't know what's going on. So let's make a golden calf. Really? So again, there has to be this idea of holding on to faith even though things aren't ideal according to our ideas. Okay? The answer to being connected before any of this was given, before any of this took place, was like the half shekel and the reminder of Shabbat. The idea of we're all a piece of a whole. We're all a piece of a part. And it doesn't mean that you're less than anyone, but it just means you are a piece of a whole. And we need to identify as a people of God, not just I'm a child of God. Well, you are, but as a child of God, you connect with a people of God. And the problem is, can we dwell in that kind of unity? Because what happens, you get a bunch of people together, and sure enough, given enough time, they're going to start arguing. It's the way people are. Okay? It just is. I'm not even saying good, bad, whatever. I'm just saying it just happens. There's going to be disagreements. But the question is, how do we resolve them? How do we handle that? Can we still consider ourselves brothers when we don't agree on something? Okay? Because the tendency, especially nowadays, is we have a disagreement. That's it. I'm done with you. That's not the way it works. That's not the way that God called us to be a people. It's not like you cease to be one of His just because you disagreed with somebody. Now, there's things about unclean and being outside the camp, all these other things, but we've got to learn to be a people of God. Because when they were counted for service, how were they counted? Were they counted as individual, or were they counted as a collective? Here's the number, and it's a collective, right? So they were counted individually, but they were numbered and summed as a whole. Okay, so we'll get into a little more of that here soon. So Exodus 30, verse 11, we start off, Yahweh said to Moshe, when you take a census of the people of Israel, then each shall give a ransom for his life to Yahweh when you number them. Let there be no plague among them when you number them. So this word for to count them, or for a census, literally is the word to lift up. Okay, that's where we get ki tisa, is to lift up. Ki tisa et rosh b'nei Israel. Lift up the heads of the sons of Israel. Okay, so they didn't count the people. They counted their contributions. And then that was the number of the people. And it was to be counted this way because then it's not just saying that this person and this person and this. No, because now, though they each gave individually, there's a whole here that we can look at. And when there was a census, most often, come on, let's get real. When a kingdom or a king took a census, what was it for? Most often, military. Even here is for military service. For military. So it's like my might, my power, and can I defend, can I conquer, and the plans that I have for the kingdom, can I do these things? Well, when God says, this is what I want for you, we don't rely on our strength. We rely on His strength. And so even when He wanted the people numbered, it was not for the sake of us being a kingdom that we can see that we're greater than them and we can conquer them. Matter of fact, we read that when they were numbered, doesn't Scripture say they were the fewest among people? So again, that should be humbling. But no, when you count your people, then the tendency is, look where we are. And the idea is you don't count the people. You count the gifts within them. You count their soul. You count their contribution. You count their working within the community. Okay? So the word there to give an atonement is the word kofar. Same word we get for kafar, Yom HaKippurim, Day of Atonements. It means a cover. Okay? Some translations say a ransom, right? This is a covering. This is a protection. This is a safety thing. Okay, so when they're numbered, this is how they are to be numbered so that they're safe. Silver, a lot of times through the Scripture, represents redemption or being refined, right? So we talk about silver being redemption. So when we're counted, we're supposed to be counted as a people who are redeemed, not just someone who can stand on our own. Okay? So atonement is more than just what we say. It's not just a matter of forgiveness. Because when they're counted, did they need to be forgiven because they were numbered among Israel? No. But again, when you understand atonement means a cover. a safety, a protection. It's a covering, right? This is something that they can learn to apply as they're going forward. This is one thing. Again, remember what I was saying. Sometimes we need to see something to grasp a concept. This is one area where they can say, Yahweh said that if I do this, then this will help in providing a covering for me. So it's not the act of doing it that provides the covering, it's the obedience and the faith of the one giving it that helps provide that atonement there. Okay? So, atonement is a protection. Who was being numbered? Aged what? 20 and up, right? So these are the ones who were counted. Numbers 10:9 says, if you go to war and you're laying against the enemy that oppresses you, you shall blow the alarm with these silver trumpets. The silver trumpets were blown when they went to war. Why silver? Again, I'm thinking there's a connection there between the silver trumpets and the half shekels. They're both silver. So when you're going to war, it's the silver trumpets that are sounded as you go out. As a reminder, God has provided a cover for you. When you're going out to war, when you're going out to battle, He is the one covering you. Okay? So when we hear that sound, it's to remind us of that. We need reminded of that. Matter of fact, that's why they gave it, so they could go through the act of saying, I know God said He would cover me, but will He really? You know, this gives us something physical to hold on to say, yes, He said He would provide me, and I know that because He said if I do this, then He would. Okay. Deuteronomy 20, verse 4. For Yahweh your God is He that goes with you to fight for you against your enemies to save you. Again, we have faith in His word, but sometimes we have to have a physical thing to remind us of what He said, right? Okay, verse 12, it says, again, we read this, when you take the sum, but it says that they do this because there will be no plague if it is done this way. Remember when David took a census? What happened? Plague. Okay, did God say to take the census? No. Did David do it the right way? No. Again, you know? So, again, there's a way things had to be done. Now, the interesting thing is this word for plague. This word for plague is negef, which means to trip, a stumbling. So he says that you do this to help provide an atonement, so there's no stumbling or tripping up among you. Because what happens when you fall in under a plague? Well, you can't really walk in that now, can you? No. So you're stumbling and you're tripping up in things. A plague means to stumble or to lag behind. Think about this. When Amalek attacked the camp, who did he attack? The ones that were lagging behind. The ones that were procrastinating in their walk, procrastinating and following the tabernacle. The ones who were on the outskirts and the edges of the camp. Amalek didn't march his way right into the center where the tabernacle was and wage war. No, he attacked the ones that were lagging behind. So the idea, again, of a plague and lagging behind, how much safety is there in that? You know? So they'll eventually be captured by their adversary. So when we stand before the king, he will take a census. Doesn't it say that? In the end of everything, and all nations stand before the King of Kings and Lord of Lords, He will separate the sheep and the goats, and He will number them. Right? He will make an account for them. And when they are numbered, what is He looking for? Atonement. The ones that have been atoned for. Okay? So He will take a census, and He will look up and see who has been atoned. The one who's been given to be counted as His people. Right? Isaiah 8:13-16 says, Sanctify Yahweh of hosts Himself, and let Him be your fear, let Him be your dread, and He shall be for a sanctuary, but for a stone of stumbling, negef, again, stone of stumbling, and for a rock of offense to both the houses of Israel, for a gin and a snare to the inhabitants of Jerusalem, verse 15. Many among them shall what? Stumble and fall and be broken and snared and taken. But then verse 16 says to do what? Bind up the testimony, seal the law among my disciples. So how do we prevent the stumbling? How do we prevent the lagging behind? How do we prevent all that? Making sure that we have His word sealed up within us. In other words, have we been atoned for, and are we walking in it? Are we walking in that faith that He has given us, saying He has provided atonement for us? Because if we're walking in that atonement He's provided for us, we won't stumble. Now, isn't it interesting to know that stumbling is associated with plague? So when we stumble, are we stumbling because we're walking in light, because we're walking in the Word? Or are we stumbling because we're walking in areas of unclean or areas of darkness, or the things within us that wage war against ourselves? Okay, that's what causes us to stumble. Isn't that what James says? What causes the wars and the things among you? It's your own desires that are waging war within yourself. So how do we get rid of that? We resist the adversary. How do we do that? Because we always say that, but something comes before that. Submit to God. Submit to God, resist the devil, and he will flee. Our submission to Yahweh is how we resist the devil. Okay, we don't go out and just start yelling and try to pick a fight. Okay, our submission to Yahweh is how we resist the adversary. Because when we're in the presence of Yah, you think Hasatan's really going to try to get in there to you? Okay. So keeping on, Exodus 30, verse 13. Each one who is numbered in the census shall give this, a half shekel according to the shekel of the sanctuary. And a shekel is 20 gerahs. Half a shekel as an offering to the Lord. Everyone who is numbered in the census from 20 years old and upwards shall give Yahweh's offering. The rich shall not give more. The poor shall not give less than the half shekel when you give Yahweh's offering to make atonement for your lives. Here's the thing. With atonement being given, does it cost more for one person than the next? Atonement is the same for no matter what. You know, we get caught in this thing of saying, well, but you don't know my sin. Doesn't matter. God said he can provide atonement. If we repent and come to him, he said he can provide atonement. Okay? So if we're saying, no, I need more atonement, what we're really saying is, God, what you've given me isn't enough. You know? Because a lot of times we say, you know, we can help forgive other people, but we can't really forgive ourselves. And so we get caught in this trap thinking God can't forgive us. No, he said he would. So we have to make sure that we are submitting ourselves to him in that surrendering our life to him. That's what the half shekel represented. That we are surrendering our life to him and that we are being counted among his people. See? So the question is this. Are we willing to stand up and be counted? Are we willing to stand up and be counted with Yahweh Tzavaot, the Lord of hosts? Are we willing to be counted as a part of his people, a part of his gathering together, his host, his army, his collective people called Israel? Are we willing to be counted as such? And here's the thing, to do that will cost you something. They would say, yeah, but when he forgave us, you know, that was free, right? See, yeah, God forgives you. It is a free gift, but after the gift is given to you, now you have to walk in it. It will cost you something. Okay, salvation is free, but you got to walk in it. Okay, so that's what we call justification, sanctification. See the two? We come to him. Now we're in his people. We got to learn how to walk it out every day. Right? So that requires something of us. In other words, we each have to make a contribution. We each have to make sure that we are willing to be counted among his people, and consider that when the people were giving, they were giving so that the tabernacle could be in their midst. Again, what were they giving for? They were giving so that there was a place within them that represents a place to meet Yahweh, a place to come and worship, a place to honor him, a place where he dwells. Okay? So if we're unwilling to stand and be counted with a people of Yah, then we'll be counted with the nations. Make sense? Sheep and goats. If we're not willing to be counted with his people, then we will not be counted with his people. Right? Or this. If we are not willing to join with the people of Yah, we'll try to continue our own spiritual pursuit, think God's okay with it, and we're going to call it a golden calf. Because that's what we're doing. If we're not willing to be counted with the people of God, then any of our spiritual pursuit, anything that we try, is a golden calf. We're trying to get our way to God other than a means that he said. And anything we try like that is nothing more than idolatry. Okay? So we've got to learn. We come to him his way. And it's like, yeah, but what if I don't like that way? Well, then that's a problem, isn't it? If we don't like that way, then there's something within us that needs to change. Okay? And so we learn to be counted with a people does require something on us. Right? Because, you know, sometimes getting together with the community of Yah, sometimes it's great. Sometimes we don't get along. How do we handle that? You know, the tendency, what we see more of nowadays is the backbiting, the arguing, the contention, the strife, all these things. Just open Facebook. Take a look. These people who are supposed to be brothers are attacking each other all the time. You know, it's easy to hide behind anonymity of a screen. What happens when you got to see this person every day? That's why there's a need to connect. Because when we don't see each other, we won't connect. And we'll constantly see each other as opposing one another. That's why Scripture tells us we need to be a community of people. Okay? 1 Peter 4:8 says, above all, do what? Keep loving one another earnestly, since love covers a multitude of sins. It doesn't mean that, oh, just turn your head when there's sin. What he's saying is when we have problems, when we have issues, when we see things, be careful how we handle it. You know, let's not just go off and attacking someone because they messed up. You know? Talk to them. Try to work it out. You know? Acts 2:42 says, they devoted themselves to the apostles' teaching and to the fellowship and to the breaking of bread and the prayers. They devoted themselves not just to Yah, but to his people. Not just to the disciples, but to gathering and communion together and eating together and praying together, doing all of these things as a people. 1 Corinthians 10:17. There's one bread, and we who are many are one body, for we partake of the one bread. Bread is Messiah, right? So again, if we are one in him, then that means we've got to learn to be one with each other. And that's where life gets difficult, isn't it? It's easy to say God's okay with what I'm doing because, well, he hasn't struck me dead yet with a bolt of lightning. So he must think I'm doing everything right. Wrong. That's why we have to be around each other to kind of help with that. 1 Corinthians 12:12. For just as the body is one but has many parts, for all the parts of the body, though many, constitute what? One body. So it is with the Messiah. Luke 11:17. But he, knowing what they were thinking, said to them, every kingdom divided against itself will be ruined, with one house collapsing on another. Kingdom divided can't stand. Right? And think about this. You know, Ezekiel, the vision with the valley of dry bones. All these bones scattered all over the place are the whole house of Israel. But before they are counted as one, they all have to come together with the bone on the bone and come together with the flesh and then the spirit and then all these things coming together to make them one people, the whole house of Israel. Otherwise, it's just a pile of dead bones. The two sticks, same thing. The point of the two sticks is not that they remain two sticks, it's that they come together as one. Colossians 3:12. Therefore, as God's chosen people, holy and dearly loved, clothe yourself with feelings of what? Compassion, with kindness, humility, gentleness, patience. Bear with one another. If anyone has a complaint against someone else, be sure you go tell someone else. That's not what we're supposed to do. If we have a complaint with someone, what do? We'll forgive them. Work together. Just as the Lord has forgiven you, so you must forgive. Above all these, clothe yourselves with love, which does what? Binds everything together perfectly. If we truly love someone, then we're going to try to work out issues. That's the problem. You know, if we don't really love someone, we don't really care about them. I don't care what's going on. But if we love someone, then we're going to try to work things out. Right? Verse 15. And let the shalom which comes from the Messiah be your heart's decision maker. For this is why you were called. This is why you were called. For what? To be a part of a single body and be thankful. Not to be a part of a single body and hate it and dread it the whole time. To be part of a single body and be thankful. And here's the thing, guys. Truth be told, there's a lot of people out there that don't have any communities that they can gather with, don't have a group of people they can gather in with. It's becoming more rare. Unfortunately, some people legitimately have that, but some people just refuse to gather with the people that are around. Verse 16. Let the word of Messiah in all its richness live in you as you teach and counsel each other in all wisdom and as you sing psalms, hymns, and spiritual songs with gratitude to God in your hearts. That is, everything you do or say, do in the name of the Lord Yeshua, giving thanks through him to God the Father. Amen? Okay, Romans 12, 3 through 5. For by the grace given to me, I say to everyone among you not to think of himself more highly than he ought to think. Boy, that says a lot, doesn't it? And that's where we'll get to the half shekel here in a minute, but that's the idea behind it. Because in that, you can't see yourself as better than anyone else. It doesn't cost any more for you than anyone else to provide that half shekel. Okay? The rich shall not give more, the poor shall not give less. The half shekel was the same for everyone. All right? So what we have, you can't look down at anyone unless you feel you're above them. But if we are all one, then that changes things. See? And that's what we say. Even positions within the body, it doesn't mean someone's better than anyone else. It doesn't mean anyone's worse than anyone else. We just have different roles in the body. And we have to learn to function in our roles. For as one body we have many members, and the members do not all have the same function. So we, though many, are one body in Messiah, and individually members of, what's it say? One another. So we are in the body of Messiah, but we are members of one another as well. And that's where we have to learn, Hine Matov. Right? Psalm 133, behold how good and pleasant it is for brothers to dwell, how? In unity, together in unity. Okay? And that's where we should learn to do this every day. And you can't do that if you don't have any peace. Because if you don't have peace in your life, every little thing becomes huge. True? They say you roll out of bed in the morning and you just wake up in a bad mood. Every little thing becomes huge. Don't let that happen. Don't let that get to you. Like, stop and just turn your hearts back to the Father. Let me put it this way. Lift up your head. Lift up your head. Look up and realize, look to Him and realize you are counted among His people. Okay? Rabbi Jonathan Sachs puts it this way in the book Covenant and Conversation. He says, what God is saying to Gideon, what He's been saying to us and our ancestors for 40 centuries, is that to win the Jewish battle, the battle of the Spirit, the victory of the heart, mind, and soul, you do not need numbers. You need dedication. To win the battle, you don't need numbers, you need dedication. Gideon's a good example. That's why he cited Gideon, right? Gideon, you've got too many people. Let's get rid of a bunch of them. What? I didn't have enough. What do you mean get rid of them? Nope. We're going to get rid of even more because it's not the numbers that's going to win the battle. It's the dedication. Okay? So we need people who are dedicated. Commitment, study, prayer, vision, courage, ideals, hope. You need people who are instinctively inclined to give, to contribute. Give, then count the contributions, the finest way ever devised to measure the strength of a people. This people, who it says was numbered among the smallest of all the people, built the tabernacle in their midst. Built a place for the God of heaven and earth and who created everything to dwell with them. What a feat. So, and if God is with them, all they needed was to keep covenant, to keep their heart towards Him and to walk with Him, right? So Exodus 30:16. So you shall take the atonement money from the people of Israel and shall give it for the service of the tent of meeting, that it may bring the people of Israel to remembrance before Yahweh, so as to make atonement for your lives. So when the half shekel was given, when the silver was given, it was used for the tent of meeting initially, because they had to build it. Then afterwards, it was supposed to be given yearly, and that helped pay for the national offerings for Israel. I mean, think about this. The Tamid offerings, the offerings that were given every morning, the offering that was given every evening, the offerings that were done for the nation. How did they get those? Someone had to pay for it, So their giving was so that the tabernacle could function in their midst on a national level and to do this continually. The half shekel. Okay, here's the thing. The half shekel was used for the service of the Mishkan. No one could give more. No one could give less. Okay? No one is better than anyone else. No one is worse than anyone else. Each of us on our own is a half. And the thing is, only when we come in unity can we see ourselves as whole. So we need to come together with the purpose of the kingdom so that we can let our half be a whole. Okay, this was the idea behind the half shekel. We can't look down on anybody else, And we can't hold someone in so high esteem that we think, oh, they're something. No, we are all equal. No, we should give each other respect and give each other, a place of honor just as people of Yah. But we've got to learn to work together. And interesting, if you're not familiar with it, I know many here are, but if you're not familiar with it, begetivri.com, Reuben Prager, he's a Levite. He's been working for over 25 years. I think it's closer to 30 now, if I'm not mistaken. And he, every year, makes a half shekel. And this is part of the teaching. It's to bring remembrance back to the people of Yah, to bring back what God is desiring for us. Just to these little things that he's desiring for us to do. Okay? And so the half shekel is to teach us we are a part of the puzzle. We're part of a kingdom. We're part of a nation. We're part of a people. And we've got to function as a people. I can't say that enough. Okay? I know I'm saying it a lot. I can't say it enough. We've got to learn to function as a kingdom. Because isn't that what we pray for? Your kingdom come. May it be on earth as it is. These are the things that we're desiring. These are the things that we're looking at. And keep in mind, the half shekel was not a monetary amount, per se. It was a weight of silver. Okay, you go to Israel today, and they have shekels. That's how they measure and count out money, right? And the price fluctuates, but it's roughly 4 shekels to $1. So say, given by that, so a half shekel, if there's 4 shekels to $1, then that's about a quarter for a shekel. Half of that's 12.5 cents. Everyone, 12.5 cents, really? Okay, but understanding it wasn't a monetary issue, it was a unit of weight. Okay, so it was a half shekel of silver. And I think in today's market, a half shekel of silver would run roughly about $23 or $26. Still not a lot, So silver represents atonement. And here's the interesting thing about it. Because the silver represents atonement, but even in that, what was it used for? It's atonement, but it's also representing unity, and it's what helps bind us together. Keep in mind, we have atonement as individuals, but we also have atonement as a people set aside in covenant. Okay? When the people gave the silver, it was the silver that was used for the sockets and for the rings, the things in the Mishkan. What are the sockets and the rings and all these things used for? To hold things together. That should teach us something. This is to represent redemption and to represent being a people of Yah and all of us together, giving of ourselves to the kingdom. It should hold us together, not tear us apart. The problem today is we come to a truth and we know this, and then we start arguing with everybody else about the truth that we now have, that how come you don't have this that you just got? We can't do that. You can't do that. We're not all at the mountain at the same time at the same place. Okay? They were. We're not. We're all in a restoration process. We're all coming back to Him. Okay? So we've got to learn to work together in that. We all wake up at different times, don't we? We all see things at different times. Some of us have better vision than others. Some are worse. But let's try to get to the same place. Okay? So coming to the presence of Yah, what is one of the first thing we need to do? If you're going to go to the tabernacle, if you're going to go to the Mishkan, you first examine yourself to see if there's anything unclean there. If something is unclean, then you were to mikvah, then you can approach. If you go to Jerusalem and you go up to the Temple Mount, you're going to find mikvah pools all over the Temple Mount. That's because before someone would come up to worship, they would mikvah to provide a place of cleansing, to go from unclean to clean so that they could go and worship. Okay? It was the same for the priests. Even more so for the priests. I mean, they had the temple and they had the offerings. There was a lot of blood going around there. And so for them to come in and approach, especially towards the altar and go in and approach even the holy place, they had to be clean, which meant they had to wash. They had the mikvah. Thus the need for the laver. The laver was a place for them to wash. The interesting thing about the laver is there's no real set dimensions. It says this is how you have to build the laver. That's why Solomon's temple, you ever see pictures of the Solomon's temple, the laver that was, oh my goodness, it was huge, right? Well, This was just a place that just needed to be big enough to hold the water where they could wash to continue. Interesting thing is it was made of bronze. You know what we've learned about bronze? It's an antimicrobial, and it's germicidal. Meaning bronze helps in aiding of cleansing, not just with the water and the cleansing, but it's also helps to kill bacteria and other things too. You ever wonder why they make a lot of doorknobs out of bronze, brass? Because no matter where you go, you're touching a doorknob somewhere. Okay? It's just little things like that, right? Exodus 30:17. So Yahweh says to Moshe, you shall make a basin of bronze with its stand of bronze for washing, and you shall put it between the tent of meeting and the altar, and you shall put water in it, which Aaron and his sons shall wash their hands and feet. So when they go into the tent of meeting, or when they come near the altar to minister, to burn a food offering to Yahweh, they shall wash with water. Why? So that they may not die. Again, the idea of approaching clean, right? Verse 21, they shall wash their hands and their feet so that they may not die. It shall be a statute forever to them, even to him and to his offspring throughout their generations. And again, we kind of lose some of this, you know? Because when we approach, we just kind of come and that's it. You know, we don't understand how things worked in the tabernacle, how things worked in the temple. But when you go through the process, you see what the Father's really trying to tell us. And even then, the bronze, I mean, it's reflective. It shows the water. So when you go in to try to wash, you're looking down and you see the reflection. What are you looking for? You're searching yourself. You know, you're looking in the mirror to try to examine yourself. And what are they supposed to be cleaning? Their hands and their feet. Representing what? Their hands is the work of their hands, the things that they do, the actions that they go through. Their feet, their walk, the places they go, the way that they're walking in life, right? Makes me think of Psalms, doesn't it you? Psalm 24:3. Who shall ascend to the mountain of Yahweh? And who shall stand in his holy place? Well, to stand in his holy place, what do you have to do? You have to wash, right? He that has clean hands and a pure heart, who has not taken my name in vain and has not sworn deceitfully, he shall receive a blessing from Yahweh and righteousness from the God of his salvation. See, so when the priests came, they had to examine themselves to make sure they had clean hands and a pure heart, and as they go into the presence of Yah. See, it would do us good to do the same. Matter of fact, daily, just to come before the Lord and say, Lord, give me clean hands and a pure heart, right? James 4:7. Submit yourselves therefore to God, resist the devil, and he will flee. Didn't we already talk about that? What's the next verse say? Draw nigh to God, and he will draw nigh to you. Cleanse your hands and purify your hearts, you who are double-minded. You can't go as far as to wash your hands in the laver and then turn around and walk away. You know, the only way out is to continue your service. So the laver was between the altar and the Mishkan. It was a reminder that the people need cleansing before approaching Yahweh. Okay? The priests brought the korbanot at the brazen altar, but they washed their hands and feet at the laver before serving in the holy place. So they brought the offerings to the altar, but between the altar and the holy place was the laver. So they brought the offering, but then they washed before they could go any further. Like this. We are atoned for and brought near in Messiah, but then we are washed by the word so that we can serve and minister before him. Does the scripture talk about the word washing? Well, where do we get this analogy from? Because he's the living water. It is the word that washes us so that we can come into the presence of God, right? Okay, so what happens next? Oh boy, the golden calf. How do we get in there? So think about this. He's talking about the half shekel, he's talking about silver, he's talking about providing atonement, and he's talking about all these amazing things that he's doing for the people of Israel. In the meantime, what are they down there doing? You know? I like how Yahweh talks to Moses. Look what your people are doing. It's kind of like, you know what your son did today? Yeah. Right? So what happens? Well, let's take a look. Exodus 32. So when the people saw that Moses delayed to come down from the mountain, problem number one, they had a time frame on how long Moses was supposed to spend with God. Did they not? They had a time frame on, well, Moses should be back here by now. How do you know? No, Moses was up there doing what he was supposed to be doing. Okay? In the meantime, the people they're getting antsy because, well, we don't know what's happened to Moses. No, you don't. So what are we supposed to do in that? Here's the thing. Continue in what you were last directed in. It's kind of like, how many times do you talk to someone, they're like, well, I just can't hear from God anymore. What was the last thing that he told you to do? Have you done that? Well, no. Hello? You can't keep telling God no and then think you're going to continue to hear him. You know? That's why we have his word. You know, we say, well, I'm looking for a new word from God. You haven't read the old one yet. You know? You can't go on seeking a new word because sure enough, you're going to get a new word, but it's not going to be from God. Because you'll have someone somewhere to talk to you about what you want and you'll end up doing a golden calf. So Moses delayed to come down from the mountain. The people gathered themselves together. We'll talk about that in a minute. So the people gathered themselves together to Aaron. They said to him, up, kum. They're like, up, get up. This was a command. They weren't asking him. They didn't say, hey, Aaron, do you know what's going on with Moses? No. Immediately, Aaron, get up and make us gods. Wow. So this is what happened. To go before us. As for this Moses, this man who brought us up out of the land of Egypt, check it out. Moses was a man of God. He was a prophet of Elohim in their midst. And you're like, this man, we don't know what he's doing. Wow. Says, so we don't know what's going on. So the question here, is there a gathering of people of God that's not good? Yes. Because it's not just gathering, it's the purpose for the gathering that's at hand as well, right? Okay. The word there is kahal. Kahal is the word that's used there. It means to convoke, to assemble together, to gather together, a congregation or a multitude. This was not all of Israel who gathered in. We go on, we read, and it's after the sin of the golden calf, it was 3,000 who died that day. My guess is it was 3,000 who approached Aaron, not the whole assembly of Israel. Okay? Because the ones who were involved in the sin of the golden calf, these are the ones that would die, not all Israel. Right? So, what happens? So they gather in together. Exodus 23:2 says, do not follow the crowd when it does what's wrong, because there's always a crowd that's going to do wrong, isn't there? If all your friends jumped off a bridge, right? So do not follow the crowd when it's to do wrong, and don't allow the popular view to sway you into offering testimony for any cause if the effect will be to pervert justice. Just because something's popular doesn't mean it's right. Matter of fact, most of the time if it's popular, it's not going to be. 32:2. So Aaron says, take off the rings of gold that are in the ears for your wives, your sons, your daughters, and bring them to me. So all the people took off the rings of gold that were in their ears, and they brought them to Aaron. And he received the gold from their hand, and he fashioned it with the graving tool and made a golden calf. And they said, these are your gods, Israel, who brought you out of the land of Egypt. When Aaron saw this, he built an altar before it, and Aaron made proclamation, said, tomorrow shall be a feast to Yahweh. There's a couple things here. When it says he fashioned the golden calf, and it says that the people made a declaration, it says, these are your gods. How many golden calves did he make? The Hebrew reads, this is your Elohim. Ele, and it's Elohecha. This is your Elohim. So that's a little different. They made this golden calf and called it God. And then Aaron took it a step further. When he saw what was going on with the people, he built an altar in front of it and made a proclamation, tomorrow let's have a feast to this calf. No, let's have a feast to Yahweh. He says, Yod, He, Vav, He, by name. So what he did, he in front of the golden calf, he made an altar and declared, let's have a feast to Yahweh in honor of this golden calf. In front of this golden calf, because of this golden calf, we're going to serve this golden calf like we're supposed to serve Yah. They made a golden calf, served it the way you would worship a golden calf. I'm not going to get into that. And said they were doing it for God. What do you think Scripture tells us in more than one place? Don't serve me the way the nations serve their gods. You can't erect a golden calf and say you're serving God by serving the golden calf. So it says Aaron formed the golden calf. The word is vayotzer, and yetzer is also the word we find in Bereshit, the book of Genesis 6:5, where it says God saw that the wickedness of man was great in the earth, and that every imagination of the thoughts of their heart was evil continually. It's the same word, yetzer. And we know this word imagination can also mean inclination. So the intent of their heart was always towards evil. And so this is the same thing where it says he fashioned. Well, that means our intent is we are fashioning something within us. We are forming something within us. Same thing. Aaron fashioned this golden calf with what intent? Did he think for 1 minute that he's going to make this golden calf that they're crying out for, saying that they want an Elohim in their midst? Wasn't he? That they want an Elohim in their midst and to do this. And did he think at all, no, they're not going to worship it. They're just going to look at it and think it's pretty. No. He knew their intent. But he did it anyway. Why? Fear. Fear. You get 3,000 people coming at you and saying, we want you to do this for us. Why couldn't they do it themselves? Because Aaron was the high priest. Aaron was the one that carried the authority of God. They wanted to erect the golden calf and do it in the authority that was given to Aaron. And that way, God will put his check mark on it. And Aaron operated out of fear. He made the golden calf. So we're told, don't just seek to please man, because that's going to be following the crowd to do wrong, right? So that's what they were looking at. And then it's interesting, when Moses comes down, it's like, Aaron, what have you done? He's like, I don't know. Really? I just threw this gold in the fire, and out came this golden calf. Really? So the word for golden calf, molten calf is what we see it as well. It's egel masecha. Egel is the word for calf, okay? Masecha is the word that they use for molten. Now here's something interesting, because the word masecha also means veil. You see the significance of that? Because when something is veiled, it's covered. So they are saying, make us something to cover us. Now, didn't God just say the thing about the half shekel is supposed to be an atonement, a covering for them? But because they wanted to see God in their midst, they veiled their eyes to the atonement he wanted to give them and made their own way. And in trying to see, they put on a veil. Like proclaiming to be wise, they were foolish, right? Isaiah 25:7 says, and he will destroy in this mountain, interesting, he will destroy in this mountain the face of the covering cast over the people and the veil that is spread over all the nations. You want to guess what that word veil that's over all the nations is? Same word, masacha, which is a veil, which is also the word that was used in relationship to the idolatry of the golden calf. So what's the masacha of the nations, the veil of the nations? Idolatry. Ephraim Frank puts it this way. Here the backsliding Israelites who are so desperate to see with their eyes, they did not see Moshe to testify for Yahweh, so they wanted what they could see. They actually suffer a loss of sight as they are blindfolded by a masacha, a veil of their own making. So because we can't see what God is doing in our midst, we will create what we think God is doing in our midst, but in the process of doing that, we are putting in front of us something that is between us and Yah. So we can't see what he's doing. We're veiling ourselves. So, before and after the golden calf, there was a command that was given. What was it? Keep Shabbat. Before and after the golden calf, there was a command that was given to keep Shabbat. Why would that be important? Because and no matter what you're doing, no matter what you're working, no matter what even building the tabernacle, a place for him to dwell, if you're so busy doing that you forget the purpose of it, what's the point? The purpose is to dwell. Well, that's Shabbat, right? So Shabbat, we stop pursuing the price of things and focus on the value of what was given to us. We stop pursuing our own desires and pursue his. Is there a difference between price and value? Absolutely. There's a price for something, but the value of something is different. Something might have a price tag of $5, but to you, it could be very costly. Sentimental value. This was given to me by, great-grandfather or something, So there's a difference between price and value. So we're not just talking about like the half shekel or that which was given, or even the golden earrings that they pull off and gave. It's not just the price of something, it's what did it cost them. What was the value of it? If they valued God in their midst, if they valued the tabernacle, if they valued the covenant, if they valued that relationship, would they have built the golden calf? No, probably not. Exodus 34:12. So be careful not to make a covenant with the people living in the land where you're going, so that they won't become a snare within your borders. Don't make a covenant with the adversary. Don't make a covenant with someone who's trying to kill you. Make sense? Dare I throw in here, you can't give away land for peace. Rather, you are to demolish their altars, smash their standing stones, cut down their sacred poles, because you are not to bow down to any other god, since Adonai, whose very name is a jealous God. Now notice, he says, when you go into the land, and this was a place for them to possess, right? When they go into the land, this was to be their land. They were going in and dispossessing those that were there because of their evil, because of their wickedness. God was giving them this land, right? So when you go into this land, you are to tear down all these idolatrous things. And we find other places in Scripture where he says, after you go into the land, don't do the things they did to their gods for me, so that you'll be ensnared after they are driven out. How can you be ensnared by them after they've been driven out? They're not even there anymore. How about the things that were left behind? The things for idolatry. And he says, don't let the idolatrous things stand in your homes. This does not give you right to go into your next door neighbor's house and start smashing up all the things you think are idols in their house. He's telling them, when the land that you go into is your land, you deal with the things that are dealing with idolatry in your land. The place I have given to you. Right? Now here's the interesting. He says, you are not to bow down to any other god. Well, we agree, right? But in the Torah scroll, it's written really neat. Because you see, this is a picture from our Torah scroll, and the word is for not to bow down to any other god. The word is acher. Acher. Acher sometimes means something that is behind her, it's other, next, strange, at the end of something, okay? So like acharimot, the Torah portion, acharimot, after the death of Aaron's sons, okay? So acher is something that's after. So here, not to bow down to any other god, the word is acher. And something interesting about this word. Looking in the Torah scroll, what do you see that's unique about it? The last letter, the letter resh, right? Resh, it's large, so it draws your attention, right? If you look, it's lower. See, a resh does not go below the line of the font. So it's lowered. In other words, when you get a big head, you're really lowering yourself. Okay? Now keep this in mind, because what's resh? Head. Okay? So, in the Paleo Hebrew, this is what it would look like. The resh represents the head. The idea is the head will not bow down to other gods. So the question is this. At the beginning of this parsha, we were told to do what? Lift up the heads of the sons of Israel. So are we going to lift up our heads and look to him? I look to the hills, where does my help come from kind of thing? Are we going to look up to him and rely on him for our atonement, and rely on him to lead us, or rely on him to bind us together in a place of unity? Or are we going to put a veil over our eyes so we can't see? So you put a veil right here, you wear this big hat, wear this big thing. Where are you going to look to see where you're going? Are we going to bow down to others, or are we going to look up to the one who's redeemed us? So, your God is called one. Shema Israel, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Echad. Echad is one. It is a united one. And then the scripture says, you shall have no part with other gods, is acher. Do you notice something there? How similar are these words? Even notice, the dalet, echad, the dalet for echad looks really close to a resh, doesn't it? If at first glance you're just reading through, you might not catch it, because the letters look really similar. So the idea is, when you're looking, our God is echad. You look to the door. Dalet is a door. You look to the door. You look to Him to gain access. You look to Him for entry. You do not bow down your head to any other. You look to Him. He is echad, not acher, not other. Okay? Also this, the adversary will always try to counterfeit what Yahweh wants. He'll get it just close enough to where if you're just kind of just rolling through it, you might not catch it. Matter of fact, doesn't Scripture even say that Hasatan can even be disguised as an angel of light? We're talking about people, angelic manifestations. Be careful. Because just because something is spiritual does not mean it's God. Right? We are not to bow down to any other. Our God is one, and we look up to Him. So what are we to do? Say with me. Look up. We look up. So we live for things that are above. We live for the things of the kingdom. We live for the things that He has established. Do not lose sight of what is important. And though life may not look the way that you hoped it would be or the way you think it should be, God is still on the throne. He is the one who rules and reigns. And if anything is out of line, He will judge it. Okay? He is the judge. He is the one to do that. He will separate the sheep and the goats. So our role, look to Him. Do not look to any other. Acher. Do not place a veil over our eyes so that we bow down and end up making golden calves. If the children of Israel had looked up to the mountain, all they looked up and they saw was the thick cloud, and like, well, we can't see Moses, so he must be dead. But if they looked up and they saw, well, Yah is still there, which means He hasn't left, which means we are to continue what we're supposed to do right here. Because we weren't to leave until He moved. And so I challenge you, look up. Look up. Where does your help come from? Help comes from Him, the Lord who created heaven and earth. Do not bow down to any other. Do not let fear grab hold of you so we end up making golden calves. But follow Him, because your God is echad. He is one, and He is the one that we serve, the only true God. Amen? He is the only one that can provide atonement for you. He is the only one that can redeem you. Therefore, we follow Him. In following Him, we learn to grab hold and take hands with one another. Yes, we've washed our hands, and we take hold with one another so that we can walk together in a common goal. Amen? The laver, you got to wash, right? All right. Blessings, guys. Let's all stand.